Welcome to the InHer Circle podcast with MsHoliness, bringing you a dose of inspiration from the ground to greatness, starting now.
Welcome, people of purpose. This is the InHer Circle podcast, episode 5, entitled Afraid of Flying. Yes, afraid of flying. So I am MsHoliness, and I am so happy that you decided to tune in with me for a dose of inspiration. But before we begin, I want to do a recap of last week's episode. So on last week, we featured the awesome and amazing Diana Evilise, who is momager and author of the book, Raising a Child Star. So I hope you all were able to tune into that episode, and I hope you all likewise and in turn were inspired by her journey, okay? Her and her family moved clear across the country in pursuit of the dream. So I want you to know that even though it was all a dream, that the dream is possible. The dream is possible. So let's get into today's episode. As I forestated, today's episode is entitled Afraid of Flying. Yes, afraid of flying. How many of you guys have ever had a fear of flying? Me per se, I once had a fear of flying, but presumably I was able to get over that fear. But something so interesting happened recently. So as many of you might know who were following me on social media, I just got back in town from Boca Raton, Florida, okay? So I was out in Florida visiting my family, my father's side of the family, and me and my dad were sitting having a conversation, and we were talking about flying. And my dad revealed to me in that moment that he was afraid to fly, okay? He was afraid of flying. And then conversation followed it. But the most important thing that I wanted to point out to him during that conversation was, if you are afraid of flying, if you never fly, there are some places in life that you'll never be able to go. There are some things in life that you want to do, but you won't be able to do it simply because you put limitations on yourself. So essentially, what I heard my dad say when he told me that he was afraid of flying is that he has put some limitations on his life. Because there are just certain parts of the world, even in the United States, that you can't get to without flying. Just as it is in life. In life, if you don't fly, okay, if you don't soar, if you don't endeavor to take flight and begin to embark on whatever it is that you have been purposed to do here in life, if you allow fear to grip you so to the point where you are afraid to fly, where you are afraid to soar, where you are afraid to take off and launch out there into that venture that you have been wanting to start, if you're afraid to bring the dream to fruition, been wanting to see materialize, okay? So there are a few things that happens when you're afraid of flying, And most people are afraid of flying simply because they feel like they're more in control on the ground. See, it is the case that when things are up in the air, okay, when things are up in the air, there's some uncertainty there. You're not in control to a degree, okay? You have to kind of rely on faith to get you to where you're going. You have to use your faith, that faith component, and you have to work that to a degree so that you can get to your destination safely. See, on the ground, you feel like you have more control because you can navigate there a little easier. I want to suggest to you that nothing great happens in a comfort zone. And it is the case that when you are on the ground, you are comfortable. But I want to let you know that if you endeavor to fly and not be afraid, that there are certain heights that you can soar at that you never imagined going to. It is outside of that comfort zone when you're really going to begin to tap into all the purpose that is laying down on the inside of you. It's outside of that comfort zone. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? Where you're going to begin to see the dream realized and materialize. It's out of that comfort zone where vision will begin to come to fruition. It's when you're out of that comfortable place. Sometimes in order for life to happen for you, you have to reposition yourself. You have to do things that are uncommon to you. You have to do some things that are uncomfortable to you in order for you to soar and excel at that next level. For instance, I had to take a leap of faith, so to speak, when I relocated from the East Coast out to the Midwest. I came out here for an opportunity, okay? And seemingly the opportunity went away. But because I was out here, it caused me to look around and say, what now? And it was either swim or sink, because I was no longer in my comfortable place. I was no longer surrounded by what felt familiar to me. So I had to learn how to navigate at a different level. I had to be brave enough to still soar. I had to be willing to fly, to take flight, despite the fact that this was unfamiliar territory. Because the only way that you're You're going to begin to conquer some uncharted territory, some areas in your life that you've never endeavored to tap into, look at or once over because you were in a comfortable place. Now, okay, like myself, now when you're in that uncomfortable place and you got to figure life out, that's when you really endeavor to soar right there. That's where that trying happens at a whole nother level. So my advice to my father, okay, as it is to you guys, is don't be afraid of flying. There's beauty in taking flight. Do you know how many adventures my dad has missed out on? Do you know how many beautiful places he'll never see, how many islands he'll never go to? Do you know how many destinations right here in the U.S. he'll never endeavor to travel simply because he's afraid of flying? And don't get me wrong, I know you can go by car, okay? But there are just some places that if you go by car, it'll take too long. Just as it is with purpose, there are just some places that you need to tap into where your purpose is concerned, that if you do it from the familiar, comfortable place, it'll take too long. Or either it may not begin to materialize, okay, and come to fruition, simply because you're not willing to soar and take flight. Simply because you're not willing to fly. You're afraid of flying. But we're just going to take a commercial break really quickly, and we'll be right back.
And now a word from our sponsors. Nerd Boy Rich Clothing for your hottest urban streetwear. MHW Creations, servicing all your literary needs. And Ace the Weave Doctor, hair extensions done right. For sponsorship opportunities, inquire within. And now back to the program.
Yes, that was a word from our sponsors, and we are back talking about being afraid of flying, okay? As I first stated before the break, I want you all to get over your fear of flying. And that's not just literally like being afraid to get on a plane and fly, but I want you all to get over your fear of flying and going to new heights in life. It is time for you to reposition yourself as the wonderful people of purpose. It is time for you to soar, okay? And in fact, take flight so that you can launch out and endeavor to explore new territory where your purpose is concerned. Because like I first stated in the episode where it says build it better, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same results, which means you're not getting any real resolve where your purpose is concerned and everything just keeps looking the same season after season, then that's called insanity, which is indicative that you, my friend, need to try to go at it another way. So if it is the case that you're comfortable on the ground, it is time for you to take flight so that you can begin to soar, okay, and go to greatness. It's just time to move your life to that next level, and you cannot do that in your comfortable place. So just like my father, so as long as he doesn't even attempt to take a plane to fly somewhere new, he'll be relegated to that one area where he is, okay, or even to the surrounding area. So let me tell you, Florida is a beautiful place. We can all attest to that. They have some really beautiful beaches, and they have lots of sun there mostly all year round. But there are absolutely some places in the United States of America and abroad that would put Florida to shame. And because my dad has this fear of flying, because he's afraid of flying, he'll never get to experience that. And I don't want it to be like that for you where your purpose is concerned, where making the dream possible is concerned, and where bringing vision to fruition is concerned. I want for you all to get it in your spirits, even now, that you're going to endeavor to take flight. And if it is the case that you have been afraid of flying to date, today is the day that you move past your fear. I want you to boldly proclaim that from this day forward, you're going to fly, okay? Flight over fear. Flight over fear. It's simply time for you to take flight over fear so that you can go to that next level that you have been ensuing to go to. And I know you got it in you to do it. And why? Because you have greatness in you. And it's just time for you to unleash it. It's time for us to see it manifest. So you've been holding on to the dream for years. You've had the vision for a while now. Now it's time to bring it to fruition. And this time you're going to take flight. We're going to see you fly, and we're going to see the dream come to fruition in an excellent way. And we're going to see the dream made possible right here, right now, in this season. So now that I've encouraged you all to go out here and take flight, okay, and get over your fear of flying, and now that you are no longer afraid of flying, let's segue over into today's hot button topic, you guys. So for today's hot button topic, I wanted to talk about Bill Cosby. Okay, and I want to talk about Bill Cosby because essentially I feel like his legacy was destroyed. And it was destroyed all because he wanted to buy NBC. I know some people have different opinions, and you guys are probably going to say, no, that's not why, but that's exactly why. Bill Cosby did not come under fire, and he was not attacked until seemingly he was going to buy NBC, a major network. So they essentially shut him down. They found people from 90 years ago to say that Bill Cosby drugged them and raped them. Okay? And Bill Cosby, so they're saying, this is alleged, I don't know, but this is how they overturned the verdict, so to speak. They said that he admitted to giving people Quaaludes, substance and having sex with them. But he never said that it was not consensual. So I don't want to throw around that word rape so loosely because I still don't believe that's what it was, okay? And I know some of you are not going to agree with this, like I forestated, but I essentially believe that they were partying, you guys. So this is like back in the 70s or so. People did Quaaludes, cocaine, and all kinds of other illicit drugs. They had orgies and they had sex and they did all kinds of wild, lewd things back then. But I just think it's so ironic that when this man got ready to buy a major network that all of a sudden all these women came out of the woodwork. Some women even looking like men. And I know that man is not into men, okay? Some of these women even looked like men and came out the woodworks and said that this man, in fact, raped them. But how is it rape if it's consensual? But at the end of a thing, I'm just glad that he was vindicated and that the Supreme Court ruled in his favor, regardless of what the technicality was, okay? I'm just glad that he's out. And I think that everyone owes him an apology. Everybody who drug his name through the mud, everybody who uprooted him out of different organizations, peeled his Hollywood star back off of Hollywood Boulevard. They just brought a lot of disgrace and shame to the man's name in his old age. And essentially, I feel like that's what they do when they want to. And when I say they, I'm talking about the powers that be. That's what they do when they want to shut you up, when they want to shut you up or down. When they want to shut you up or shut you down when you're a person of color, when you're a black person, essentially, because Bill Cosby is a black man. So even though everybody's like, oh, crime, rape culture, essentially, okay, and this is just my opinion, I essentially don't feel like those women were raped. And I feel like it was a lot of putting on and that somebody put them up to do that, to shut him down. And essentially it ruined a legacy. Now, I know that when he was going through the ordeal several years ago, people that he had been co-stars to were really quiet, awfully quiet. But now we have people like Felicia Rashad, who played the wife, Claire Huxtable, on the Cosby Show, coming forth and, speaking out on it, saying that she's glad, and don't quote me, this is not verbatim, but basically she's glad that the injustice was overturned and that, he has his freedom again. I essentially had an opinion about it when he first got convicted. I don't feel like Bill Cosby, or what you guys were calling him, Pill Cosby. I don't feel like he was on his R. Kelly stuff. I feel like essentially those women knew that they were coming there to party because that's what people did during that time. And I feel like they knew what they came for and that it was all consensual. All of it. I don't look at Bill Cosby and see a rapist, okay? And this is not just me coming to his defense because he's a black man. That's not what this is. This is me coming to his defense because where I see truth, I validate truth. And where I see injustices, I cry against them likewise. And I feel like an injustice was done to that man and truths needed to come out. And no matter how it was overturned, I'm glad that it was overturned and that he now has the victory. And even though we got one for the team, okay, we got a victory this week in them letting Bill Cosby out. On the other hand, we took a L. And when I say we, I'm referring to the black community because I'm a black female. I'm African American. All right. So when I say we, I'm referring to my community. We took a L on the end with Shikari Richardson, okay? So we got Shikari Richardson, and I hope I'm saying her name right, you guys. She is the sixth fastest woman of all time. She's number 6, and she's the 4th fastest according to American history. So worldwide, she's the 6th, and in America, she's the 4th. And she was set to go to the Olympics and represent the United States team. All right. So she went through the Olympic trials or whatever have you. And all of a sudden they decide to drug test her because she outdid them all. during the trial period. All right. So all of a sudden, they decided to drug test her, just like they drug tested Michael Phelps, and they found some THC in her system. So for those of you who don't know, THC is the psychoactive component found in marijuana cannabis. All right. It's the part that gets you high. So they found it in her system, and they kind of was like, all right, so no, you can't go do this 100-meter whatever. So they kind of put her on suspension for 30 days, you guys. But, I just feel like America plays dirty. Had she not won that trial run with that 100-meter dash, I believe it was, Sister Girl wouldn't have came under fire. And I believe that she said the reason why she actually had indulged in the marijuana is that her mother passed away. And she just needed a little something to help numb the pain. Now, I don't want to be a hypocrite, you guys. Outside of me doing this podcast, that I'm a minister of the gospel who keeps it raw and real. But I do know for a fact that in 2010, when my grandmother passed, okay, I was going through some changes, and I was already in church. I found myself drinking wine, MsHoliness, day and night. I was waking up taking a sip, and I was laying down taking a sip, and I perfectly believed in the Lord Jesus. And I also think that I told it on a blunt at one point with a friend, all right? And I'm saying all that to say, people are weighing in saying she was stupid, she knew better. But until you lose a parent, until you lose, somebody that you're really close to, you don't really know how you're going to respond, how you're going to grieve. And her, like myself, she just wanted to be numb. She didn't want to feel that pain. Sometimes the pain is so overwhelming that you need a little something to numb yourself, okay? And I had a right relationship with God at the time, but I was in so much pain that I just needed to feel numb during my period of grieving. But then I had to turn away from that too. But I've fallen short in that area. So I'm not about to throw no stones at this girl when I'm over here living in a glass house. I might not be drinking now and smoking weed. But when I was like 20, how was I when my grandma passed away? 27, I absolutely did, have me some MsHoliness wine and smoke me some of that marijuana with THC in it with one of my friends while I was grieving. So if anything, I'm more empathetic to her plight. And I feel like to a degree they were too hard on her. From what I gather, she's a 19-year-old girl who's trying to cope with the death of her mother. So if you've never lost a parent at a young age, if you've never experienced, like I said, hurt or death or some kind of sudden disaster at a young age, you guys don't know essentially what she's going through. So my whole thing was, have some mercy on the young girl. Yes, our community took an L. But she is who she is. The Lord has graced her with uncommon skill and ability. And I'm just hoping, trusting, and believing that essentially they'll give her another shot at the Olympics. We all make mistakes. We all have made mistakes. And I don't even know if I want to call this a mistake because the girl was grieving. And many of us who've grieved at that level, it's overwhelming. And like I said, sometimes you might need something, to numb you. Now, at this age, at 38, almost 39 this fall, I probably wouldn't pick up no alcohol or nothing if I'm grieving. I know to go pray. I know to go seek counsel. I know to do different things now. But when you're younger, you just want to escape real quick. You want a way of escape. But what's so crazy? The same people that's throwing stones at her who are living in glass houses smoke weed in their leisure time when ain't nobody looking, period. Somebody out here buying this marijuana and smoking it. It ain't smoking itself. And I know that it's legal in some states. And even though I'm not a fan of it, I just have a level of empathy for this young girl. And I'm not here to judge. And who am I to judge her? Well, that concludes our talk for today. Thank you for joining me for episode 5 of the InHer Circle podcast, entitled Afraid of Flying. With questions and comments, text 484-393-2730, keyword the InHer Circle Live. To connect with the InHer Circle, follow us on Twitter at the InHer Circle _, on Instagram at the InHer Circle _podcast, and on Facebook at the InHer Circle podcast. For sponsorship opportunities, email us at inhercirclepodcast@gmail.com. Well, this is MsHoliness signing out. I look forward to you joining me for the next episode where I aspire to lift you higher.